After the last video I made, I came to this conclusion that I don't think I should be cursing anymore. I don't. And this is coming from a guy that curses quite often, or I did. I did. I'm making that change. I'm growing up a little bit. But there's a reason why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct a 30-day experiment and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see if reducing the number of times I curse equals a much more fulfilling and a much more happy life. And honestly, I think I'm going to be proven correct. And the reason why, well, actually, let's first start with this. Whenever you start out doing something, I think I think a lot of people make the decision to do something in order to get something in return. So I'm not doing this to get anything. Okay, I have to say that first because usually when people get, they maybe they make YouTube videos, for example, and I fell into this trap, and I've since switched my position on this. When I first made YouTube videos, I said I'm making these YouTube videos because I want people to come to my community and then check what I'm doing out over there. So what I said instead is I said, you know what? Let's just give away free stuff and let's not even talk about it. Okay. And I've noticed that things have improved. I mean, it's crazy how that happens. I mean, you just let things go and it's like, oh wow, here, universe is like, here, let me give you let me give you some blessings. So it can't be to get. You just gotta be relaxed. You gotta be open, you gotta let go of needing to get something from other people. So reducing my curse words is not about getting something from other people. I believe that when you stop cursing, you let go of all that negative energy that's underneath the words. So, let me show you this chart. This chart is a chart of emotional frequencies. Okay, so we have all the frequencies from love to shame and everything in between. Essentially, the way I like to break frequencies down is it really just comes down to two of them. Okay, if we were to boil this all down, even though it has enlightenment at the very very top here, if we were to boil it all down, it really just comes down to fear versus love. Okay, I would say love is obviously at the highest, and I know if you guys ever seen some clips, I think one of the clips from Gary Brecka went viral when he said, what frequency is 4,000 times stronger than love? Does anybody know? Before I give you the answer, do you know? I'm going to give you a couple more seconds. It's authenticity. Authenticity is technically 4,000 times stronger than the frequency of love. Now, with that being said, it is my personal opinion that authenticity is just another flavor of love. And if I'm being truthful, my belief is that all of these frequencies here, even fear, even guilt, even shame, even regret, all the frequencies, these are all different versions of love. It's just how filtered down are they? How titrated are they? Right? And that's going to bring me back to my point of cursing. So, behind the words, right? Words don't have any inherent meaning. They're just words. But there's an emotion behind them. And when you put emotion behind the words, then that starts carrying some meaning. And it carries different intentions, right? Think about it. When you're talking to somebody, say you're angry at somebody, and you're maybe not even talking, maybe you're yelling at them. The emotion behind the words is carrying some sort of weight, or you're trying to make the emotion behind the words carry some kind of weight. And with that being said, you're trying to have those, you're attempting to make those words have a particular impact. So, as I was thinking about this, and I'm thinking about, okay, how am I showing up in my life? How am I showing up, even just delivering these YouTube videos? I mean, the last YouTube video I made, there was so much cursing in there. And I sat back and I said to myself, is that really how I want to show up? Is that how I want to present myself and present my message? And then at an even deeper level, I said, am I cursing because I'm still carrying on to some kind of insert the blank? And then I explored that concept a little bit and I said to myself, yeah, I think I am. Actually, I don't think so. I know I am. Because most of the lessons that I'm going to share with you guys, if I'm being honest, most of the lessons I learned came with some sort of pain or suffering. It's just a fact. It's just what happened, and I can't make that. I can't sugarcoat that. Most of the stories behind me here, and if this is the first video you've ever seen of me, what's behind me here are years and years and years of documentation on myself. Okay, what I was doing is I was documenting how do I think, how do I talk, how do I act, how do I feel, what do I believe, and how do all those things shape the life that I'm experiencing. And that's how I came up with saying, your perception, you've probably all heard the saying, perception creates reality, or perception equals reality. And I'm a true believer of that. And my documentation, my notes on myself, just studying myself, and honestly, I also worked in customer service as well for about 10 years on and off. And I've noticed that as well, just dealing with people. Perception 100% creates reality. How you show up in your everyday life is 100% going to influence the way you think, the way you talk, the way you act, the way you feel. Okay, and that's going to shape how you experience the life that's unfolding right in front of you. So, most of these stories behind me here, they are filled with hard-earned lessons. Let's put it that way. A lot of it started with chronic nerve pain. That's why I have that picture there. That's how this whole process started. I had a lot of chronic nerve pain, a lot of electricity, a lot of burning, a lot of stinging, a lot of tingling shooting down into both of my feet. So I would live every day with my feet burning. And I would show up at work. I would have to stand at a counter for over 8 hours. I'd have to pick things up for people. And there was a lot of negative emotion behind all of that. A lot of anger, to be quite honest with you. A lot of anger. And as I was going down these rabbit holes of perception creates reality, and then studying literally a little bit of all topics. I'm not a master at any of them. I'm not a guru. I'm just some guy that happened to pick apart at each of the following disciplines, and that would be a little bit of science, which would include neuroscience, maybe a little bit of behavioral psychology. I studied different spiritual writings. I looked a little bit into the Bible, into the Bhagavad Gita. I've dived into psychedelics. I started doing these spiritual retreats. I've done quite a lot of things, But the main thing I did is I just studied myself, and I'm coming to the point where now I'm realizing I think the next stage to elevating, how I experience life and how I experience it in a much more rich and fulfilling way is I think I got to let go of the dirty words, the curse words. I think it's time to let it all go. Now, there is still a piece of me that wants to hold on to it a little bit because I think when you're making a point and you use a curse word, that emotion behind it makes that point stick. And I will also say, depending on the environment that you're in and who you're talking to, right? I mean, I grew up blue collar, and if you're around a lot of blue collar people, it's a lot of cursing. Okay, that's just the truth of it. So, yeah, and obviously you are a product of your environment as well. I should throw that out there, right? I think we all have seen that. That is something that has popped up inside my notes multiple times. But once you're consciously aware of it, that point really hits home. So the reason why I'm saying that is if I were to go out and I were to talk to people of different backgrounds, for example, they might be more receptive to somebody that's cursing just because I'm speaking their language. But for now, I'm not there yet. I'm not at that point yet. And maybe I don't even have to go back to cursing to even get these points across or even to speak the language. I think I could do it just with tonality. But I'm thinking that if I release the curse words, then I'm releasing all of these negative emotions behind the words that I'm speaking. And if I could do that, right, I could speak much more clear. My message could obviously resonate with more people. And honestly, I really do believe that overall my level of happiness would just go up exponentially. I mean, I'm already noticing it right now. I mean, usually when I start a video, before I even like hit record, I do like a little warm up. I just start talking to myself, even though technically that's what I'm doing anyway, right? I mean, I'm looking at a camera, just talking to myself, but obviously I'm talking to you. Um, when I was talking to myself in the past, there would be like a lot of curse words, and I'd curse about some things, and I'd try to like hype myself up a little bit. But now I'm just coming at it from a completely different angle. It's just more playful. The words are more playful. The attitude's more playful. The energy's just more playful. And I've noticed that when I've taken on that playful energy, I don't know. I feel lighter. I think even just speaking the words that the curse words and having all those negative emotions behind it, I believe that does bring you down as well, right? I believe that drags you energetically speaking. Like imagine walking around all day, every day. You're cursing here, you're cursing there, and I'm not saying that you can't curse playfully. You absolutely can. But again, I think there's something energetically behind these words, infused behind these words, and that gets infused into your body. And the biggest thing here is I'm gonna save this for another video. I'll really dive deep into this, especially with uh, what just happened today and noticing how crazy uh, this thing is. I'll share that in tomorrow's video. But a lot of people forget what happens with emotions. I mean, if you get angry, if you get sad, if you get depressed, and you pretend like it doesn't exist, I mean, what happens to it? Do you think it just disappears? This is something I also studied, and I could tell you for a fact it does not disappear. It does not disappear. Emotions are one of my mentors taught me that emotions are just energy in motion. Everything's energy, right? Everything's built up of there's energy behind everything. So what I've noticed is let me get a color here. What I've noticed is these negative emotions usually get stored in the body. And for me particularly, it was usually my back, which is why I believe, oh, you can't really even see that. Let me get a different color. Let's get a different color. Let's go with the yellow. Can you see that pop up? You'll get the point. Actually, you know what? We'll go this way. So they would go on my back, they would go on my calves, my feet, and also my neck. On the back, on my posterior side. On the front side, all these negative emotions would go here. Let's make this red. See if red pops up better. They would go here. What is this? This is my psoas muscle, or your psoas muscle. Psoas muscle connects from the top of your femur here, your inner leg, and then it runs up and then it hits your back. Okay. In a lot of spiritual communities, they would talk about how the psoas is responsible for carrying emotion or carrying burdens. I've found that to be true. I believe that to be true, just based on my own experiences. But I think what's really going on is when you have negative emotions and you don't know what to do with them, you don't know how to process them, your body's way of dealing with it, because you don't want to process it, is to push it away, to push it out. And it's to push it out from one area, and that one area is going to be your heart. Okay? Actually, it's going to be over here. So it's to push it away from your heart. Why? Because your heart is this emotional center. Okay, this is where I believe love is really curated from. I believe it's curated from the heart. I have no evidence to support this, by the way. I have zero evidence. This is just based on my own experiences. I believe that all healthy desire, not negative desire, not that desire that feels like it's craving, but healthy desire, God-given purpose, all stems and arises from the heart. That is why I believe even Jesus, there's certain pictures of Jesus where he's pointing to the heart. That is where I believe all of that arises from. Now, when we are infused with these negative emotions and we're not allowing ourselves to process it, I believe the body's mechanism for handling that type of situation is to push all those negative emotions away. So it's either going to push it up towards the head or it's going to try to push it down. That's why a lot of people have back issues. That's why a lot of people have tight hamstrings, tight calves. And don't get me wrong, I believe everyday activities like looking at your phone all day, I believe sitting in a chair all day, I believe if you're driving all day, I believe, yes, all those things obviously are going to impact your posture, which is going to impact, these muscles, and then therefore it's going to impact everything. But I believe emotions, particularly these negative emotions, when they get captured in the body, that's going to create tension. Okay, and that tension or inflammation, tension or inflammation. And that tension or inflammation is 100% going to have an impact on how the rest of the muscles in the body interact with each other, right? So if I have a muscle knot here, right, I'm storing all these negative emotions here, then what does that mean? That means all these other muscles are then going to have to start compensating, right? Some are going to be stretched, some are going to be shortened. They're all going to feel like tightness, right? I mean, even on this side, right? If this is where on the posterior side, if you could see this, if this is where all these negative emotions are stored, again, look what happens to all these muscles. It's like tie. If you ever done tie dye, um, you know how you scrunch it up. You know how you twist it. If I take my shirt here, right? See how I twist it? You see all these lines, all these leading lines to go into that point of tension. Yeah, I believe that right there, that point of tension, is from the negative emotion. So the goal is for the next 30 days to test this out to see what happens if I just don't curse. And, I plan on making a video every single day. I don't think I'll necessarily talk about this topic every single day, but along the way until June 4th of 2026, I will let you know how this experiment is going. And honestly, I believe before it even is complete, I believe it will lead to a much more happy and a much more fulfilling life. So until tomorrow, make sure to check in to tomorrow's video because what I'm going to share tomorrow does have to do with this, but I'm not even going to say what it is. It's crazy. Make sure to watch it. So I'll catch you then.